Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube video. This is Dr. Song. I started my lesson for the quantitative research method. This is week 5. So we were talking about last session the about the hypothesis. So today we will continue. These are the references from where I got the content for my lesson. So you will have this as a references. So, in fact, according to what we learned last time, we can solve these questions. So here, what is the conventional alpha level used? So that is, you can see that is the, no, sorry, that is 0.05. So the P, it should be less than 0.05. But normally, when you have the APA style, you don't put the 0. So that is a 0.05. What is the conventional power level? So power level that is related to the how much the effect, how much this result, what you obtained, it will be in the real life. How can be adapted? How can be accepted? That is in the power in the real life. So that is the power level. Normally we want to obtain about 0.85. So this is the conventional power level. And then, in your company, about this question. In your company, you recently started using a social media management platform, hoping it will increase engagement in your company's social media posts. To see if there is any difference in engagement measured by likes, you compare 50 posts from the before with the 50 posts from after. So you get this result. So when you see that this kind of a quiz, and you should see that before and after, they have the 120 likes and the 126 likes. So you don't know what is the significant difference between the two after the before and after, but you have here the point, the hint. The p equal 0.021. So this is less than 0.05. So that difference between the 120, 126 is significant. So you can conclude that the difference, there is a difference, yeah, because it's significant. There is less engagement than when using the management platform. This is not true because there is more likes. So there is more engagement when you use the management platform. So you can say that this is a difference. And then you will conclude that using the new platform that will attract more likes. Okay, and then let's see this quiz. You conduct the 4 separate analyses and obtain the following probabilities. So there is this is like a very important rule to have the p should be equal or less than 0.05. So you will say that the first one is 0.49. So we can okay, null hypothesis. So we can reject the null hypothesis because that is less than 0.05. So you will put reject and the reject. The first one or the last one will be the answer. And then p is equal 0.051. So this is slightly over than the 0.05. So this means that we have to accept the null hypothesis. So reject and then you accept. Now the p equal 0.007, that is much smaller, less than the 0.05. So we will reject the null hypothesis. And then 0.500, that is much greater. So we will accept. So this will be the number 4. So in fact, you have to think well about the null hypothesis. That means that when you reject the p is less than 0.05, and when you fail to reject, that is p is greater than 0.05. So you have to think well about that. And then this is a criteria of the statistical significance. So in this slide, what you have to see, in fact, about this point, Normally, this is the what we should be obtained. And then if that is a 0.001 or 0.01, and of course that is much less than 0.05, that is fine. However, when the n is small, so if your sample size is really very small, sometimes you can allow until the 0.01. So the 0.1. So instead of the 0.05, you will allow until the 0.1. So this is really the exceptional case, but it can happen. So in general, you can put a p-value is less than 0.05. But if your sample size is so small, and you can think about also this developing modification about the p-value. Okay, so let's see about some with the images, how you can think about the difference. So here is you want to test whether the woman posts more on social media than men, and then you can see that is a women is this yellow, and then the gray is a man, and then you can see that the post is much greater than the man, and then you can see that the mean value and this one is quite different. And then also they are not very much overlap. So it's very possible you will have the p-value is less than 0.05. And then you can see that this is explanation. In fact, the this black line that is like between the two. So if your two result is a man and the woman is so close and many overlap, very possible the significance is not the p-value is not significant. But in fact, this yellow and the gray between the two, you can see that there is no overlap. So the p-value is less than 0.05. So we can reject the null hypothesis and we accept our alternative hypothesis, means that there is a significant difference between the man and woman about the postings in the social media. So this is the same thing. It's if that is the p is a greater than 0.05, that means that it's a men and women are posting. It's not very much a significant difference because there is a lot of overlap. So in that case, we fail to reject the null hypothesis and then you accept null hypothesis. Depending on the researcher how you express, but normally you can say that accept or fail to reject. So let's see about this one. So okay, so I will make a bit okay, so I will make a bit smaller. Okay, so you can remind I want to remind you of these testing models and the types of hypotheses. So when you say about the null hypothesis means that there is no difference in academic achievement based on how much time students spend studying. And there is a difference, is a significant difference in academic achievement based on how much time students spend studying. So this is in general how you construct your null hypothesis and then alternative hypothesis. So normally null hypothesis, there is no difference. So this is the kind of general way to say, and there is a difference, there is a H1, and then there is no difference, is H0. That is a null hypothesis. And then this is the one slide from the one researcher say about this his opinion. We don't accept, that is not the correct expression, but we fail to reject. So this is depending on the scholar how they say about how when you they reject or when you accept the null hypothesis. So we will consider this different opinion. And then the null hypothesis is anytime you conduct a statistical test in a species gives you a probability, so that is a p-value. So this allows you to decide to reject or you fail to reject. So this probability is saying what is the chance of getting this finding if the null were true. So p-value should be the very small. So if the p-value is under the certain limit, so that is about 0.05, and then we reject the null hypothesis, and then we can accept the null hypothesis. So the probability of obtaining a particular result of hypothetically speaking, the null hypothesis were true. So this is the like explanation of how you interpret. So the major probability is p is less than 0.05. So this is the how you decide according to the p is a less than 0.05, and then that means that in another word, it's a 95% that is true. There is a difference, or there is significant significance between the two, the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. So alternative hypothesis is expectation. We want to investigate for instance, the magician has a magic power, and then null hypothesis, the magician has no magic power. So the probability of reaching out our finding if the H0 is true. So this is the how you interpret the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. So here you can see that okay. So here, let's see about the story about story of the magic power. Yeah, the magician has a magic power. That is a alternative hypothesis, and then the magician has no magic power is a null hypothesis. So here, if you have the probability is of 0.03, that means that is a p-value is less than 0.05. Yeah. So that means that you have to you have to reject your null hypothesis. So that means that if the magician were fraud, so if there is the magician is doesn't have any magic power, there would be about the 3% of chance of this outcome. So that means that we have a very small chance of the magician doesn't have the magic power. So that means that the p-value is less than 0.05. You have to accept your your alternative hypothesis. So alternative hypothesis was this one. The magician has the magic power. So that means that in other words, the magician doesn't have any power. That probability is only the 3%. That means that. Okay. It can be a bit confusing in the beginning, but we have to think well about this difference between the alternative hypothesis and then null hypothesis. Okay, so this is the practice of the questions. So let's just see together about this one. We can consider like that. So imagine a statistical significance test is result in a p equal 0.12. So our magic probability is p is less than 0.05. So this is greater than the p value is greater than 0.05. So in fact, what we can say here that we cannot reject the null hypothesis. So this means that we have to accept or we fail to reject the null hypothesis. So this is the answer. So let's see about this here. Testing hypothesis. If p is low, that typically is less than 0.05, we reject the null hypothesis and consider the findings in line with the hypothesis, alternative hypothesis. And then if p is high, that means that is greater than 0.05, and then we don't feel comfortable to rejecting the null hypothesis. So this is the how you can formulate when you say about your decision about that. Failing to reject the null hypothesis does not mean accepting the null hypothesis. So these are the term is very frequently different according to the scholars. But what is the most clear thing is about this point. So you will think about how you will formulate about your decision. Okay, so this is about the hypothesis, null, and then alternative. So next time we will continue with those concepts with other examples. Thank you so much for today, and then see you next time.